Hey everybody, and welcome. Today we are diving into this world that's, well, it's all around us, but it's totally invisible. We're talking about a whole life, the whole shebang packed into one single, super powerful cell.
So I've got a question for you right off the bat. I mean, really think about it. Is it even possible for one tiny cell to do everything a living thing needs to do? Eating, moving around, getting rid of waste, all of it.
The answer is a huge yes. And we have a name for these incredible little life forms, unicellular organisms. Basically, it's a living thing made of just one cell that does all the jobs. Talk about the ultimate multitasker, right?
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll check out the single-cell food court. Yep, how they eat. Then we'll see how these tiny movers get around. We'll peek inside the survivor's toolkit to see their special gear. And we'll finish up with a tale of two protists, putting two of them head-to-head. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first up, lunchtime. Every living thing has to eat, right? But how on earth does a single cell get its food when it doesn't even have a mouth?
Well, it turns out they've got three main choices at their tiny food court. Option 1 is to just make your own food. Option 2 is to go out and eat something else. And then there's option 3, which is kind of the genius move. You can do both.
So let's talk about the food makers first. We call them autotrophs. They're a lot like plants. They soak up sunlight and make their own food. You've probably heard of it. It's called photosynthesis. And some examples are chlorella or the super cool spiral-shaped spirogyra. They are pros at this.
All right, then you've got the food eaters. These are the heterotrophs. Think of them more like animals. They actually have to go out and hunt or find their food to get energy. And we're going to get to know two of these guys really well a little later, the amoeba and the paramecium.
Okay, but what if a cell didn't have to choose? What if it could do both? Now this is where it gets really cool. We call this a mixotroph, and it's basically the best of both worlds. So get this, the Euglena. If the sun's out, it'll make its own food, just like a plant. But if it gets dark, no big deal. It just starts absorbing nutrients from the water around it. I mean, how smart is that? It's the ultimate survival strategy.
All right, so we know they can eat, but can they move around? Oh, you bet they can. So let's check out how these tiny little things make some pretty big moves to find their next meal or just get away from danger.
So one really common way to get around is with something called a flagellum. Just picture a long whip-like tail that the cell uses to kind of pull itself through the water.
Remember that Euglena we just talked about? Well, it uses one long flagellum to pull itself forward. But then there's Chlamydomonas. It has two of them, and it beats them together kind of like a person rowing a boat with two oars. So same basic tool, but a totally different swimming style.
Okay, so that's the whole long tail method. But what if, instead of one or two big tails, you had hundreds or even thousands of tiny little hairs all over your body? Well, that's the idea behind cilia. They're like thousands of tiny oars all working together.
And the paramecium is the poster child for this. It is absolutely covered in these cilia, and they all beat in these perfect coordinated waves. This lets it just glide super smoothly through the water. It's actually a really efficient way to get around.
But hey, what if you're not in the mood for swimming? What if you'd rather crawl? Well, for that, some cells use something called pseudopods. The name literally means false feet.
And the undisputed master of the pseudopod is the amoeba. This guy doesn't have a fixed shape at all. It just oozes. It stretches out a part of its body, kind of grabs on, and then pulls the rest of itself forward. And get this, it's a 2-for-1 deal. It uses these exact same false feet to wrap around its food and gobble it up. So it moves and eats with the same body part. Pretty cool. Okay, so they can eat, they can move, but surviving is way more than just that, right? These little guys have a whole toolkit of special parts inside them, we call them organelles, that help them deal with all the other challenges of life.
So here's a little puzzle for you. Think about it. Most of these tiny creatures live in fresh water, right? Like in a pond. Now, because of science, water is always trying to rush into their cells. So why don't they just keep filling up with water until they pop like a water balloon?
Well, they have a secret weapon. It's this amazing little gadget called a contractile vacuole. The easiest way to picture it is like a tiny automatic water pump that's just always working inside the cell.
Its whole job, its one crucial mission, is to collect all that extra water that comes in and then squeeze it back out. This keeps the cell from bursting. This little pump is on duty 24/7,
making sure the cell doesn't flood. It's literally a lifesaver.
All right, time for our final section. Let's bring two of our star players back for a little side-by-side comparison. It's the shape-shifting amoeba versus the slipper-shaped paramecium. Let's see how they stack up.
Okay, let's break it down. First up, shape. The amoeba, no fixed shape. It's a blob, always changing. The paramecium, on the other hand, always looks like a little slipper. Now, how do they move? The amoeba crawls with those false feet, the pseudopods. The paramecium swims with all those tiny cilia. And what about eating? The amoeba wraps itself around its food, while the paramecium uses its cilia to create a little whirlpool to sweep food into a special mouth-like groove. Totally different approaches.
And this really brings us to a super important point. Same goal, different design. See, they both need to do the same things to live. They gotta eat, they gotta move, they gotta not die. But they've evolved completely different tools and strategies to get those jobs done. So what's the big idea here? The main thing to remember is that one cell really can do it all. It's not just part of a thing, it is the whole thing. Moving, eating, staying safe, surviving, all of that is happening inside one microscopic package, all thanks to those amazing, specialized parts we've been talking about.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. We really only just scratched the surface of this incredible invisible world. Can you imagine what other amazing, clever, and totally weird strategies for survival might be hiding out there in just a single drop of pond water? Thanks so much for joining me today.